everybody to our Sacred Self-Healing Call, Soul Integrity, Part 4 of our Karmic Manifestation Series. This is something here for 2022 that came to me in the beginning of the year, that we are in a very karmic year. This year is very pivotal for all of us, for our collective and individually. And I figured that as we go through these months of the year, that we would be confronted with the different aspects of what this karmic manifestation is about. And in the first 3 months, we've covered things such as the difference between karma and conditioning, what we truly want, right? What's our true desire versus the drive, like things that have to do with our inner child and pain of the past and fear of the future. We've briefly talked about inner alignment and congruence, which we will dive a little deeper into today. And pretty much every workshop that we do here in context with the Sacred Self-Healing course has to do with barriers, with mindsets, with mechanisms, patterns such as self-sabotage, such as having bad boundaries or no boundaries, or issues with boundaries, having issues with interaction with others, and so forth. This basically plays into every perspective. Today, we want to look specifically at these aspects that have to do with, I want to say, the fundamentals of our spiritual understanding. And I want to clarify things with you, such as what it even means to be human, what a soul purpose is or could be, how this relates to karma. Yeah, so these things that we all kind of feel in us, but never really sit down and actually investigate. Yeah, so what is destiny? What is higher potential? Yeah, these kind of things I want to discuss with you today. In the process, we're going to go through how to measure integrity within ourselves, not moral integrity. It's part of it, but it is not the foundation for soul integrity. The foundation for soul integrity is something else. So we're going to learn about this today and how this relates to our life views, yeah, to the energetic component, the energetic habits that we have, and also what the role of our inner soul connection is, how this relates to our true self connection. Yeah, all these bigger questions that we normally just kind of brush over or use these terms, but without actually having defined them yet. Obviously, there's a recommendation here to go through the other 3 parts, yeah, of this Karmic Manifestation series. There's also a 2-part series on YouTube, which covers the higher dimensions of self. I think it's called Dimensions of Self. It's a detail, yeah, where we investigate the frameworks of life and so forth. Yeah, this is sort of a schooling of higher thinking. Yeah, how can I differentiate what I am perceiving and what I am thinking? And I can see that my video just went out. Not sure why, guys. Let me just make sure that, yeah, I'm gonna have to, there's an issue with my computer here. Again, this is something that we've been having issues with, or I have been having issues with, and I think it mainly relates to the storage problem that my computer complained about. So let's just hope that it comes back. You can still all hear me, right?
Yes.
All right. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, thank you. My computer froze here for a moment, so this does not bode well, to be honest. Can you see the screen still?
Yes, but
the
not you.
camera. No, the camera. I don't see the camera either. So that I think is producing extra storage. People can see me. Yeah, so today we want to look into the deeper aspects of soul integrity. And because this is a subject that has no factual measurement, if you will, it really requires us to share here what we experience as our purpose, what we experience as our integrity. And I'm going to lead you through the process so that it becomes easier for you to define this. Yeah, you see a quote here, you know your soul's purpose when there's nothing left you need to resist. It's one of those mind twisters that once a person has an internalized experience of soul integrity, it makes a lot of sense. But until then, it's kind of wishy-washy, that statement. Do you guys know what I mean? You know your soul's purpose when there's nothing left you need to resist. Yeah, so just real quick, we've just had a wonderful energy talk about what it is that we resist. Anybody off the top of your head, what are some of the typical things that you find yourself resisting? Typical things. Or where you find that life resists you, or where you resist life. Typical things. Maybe you have a physical condition. Maybe you think that you are, not pretty enough, or not skinny enough, or not muscular enough, or that you are, not skilled enough. Maybe that you feel that you're not lovable. Maybe you feel that you're just not conform enough. Maybe you feel sort of on the outs a bit, like not really belonging. Yeah, those are things that we perceive as resistance. How will you measure that? How do you know, like on a normal day, that you are experiencing a lot of resistance? I mean, many of you come to the energy talks and the online meditations and so forth, and you have a lot of opportunity to share. But how do you know that, let's say you have a day where, life is easy, life flows? And how do you feel it when it's kind of rough or low? What does that subjectively feel like for you?
Hi, it's Annette.
Hi, Annette. Welcome.
Thank you. For me, it's mostly when I feel negative. I measure it with resistance. The negativity, I can feel that the energy is low, and I'm a little angry and such things.
Annette, is that negativity? When you say negativity, is that more like a feeling, or like an emotion, or is this more like your life view, the way you think about things, like everything is bad, everything is nothing is worth it?
Yes, and yes, mostly that.
Do you feel it emotionally as well? Or is it more like in your perspective, your mental perspective?
Mostly my mental perspective is negative, and then I think all people irritates me, and Yes, I think there is a feeling too, mostly a little angry and frustrated, and I can feel it so much that that I resist something, and I don't like to be in that state, but sometimes it can be really difficult for me to change it.
So I hear actually both. I hear that you have something like a lot of judgment to it, the world, people, yourself, life, right? So that's a mental aspect.
Yeah,
And then I also feel sort of you described this as frustration or anger. Those are more emotional
yeah,
things. So
yeah,
so it's a
yeah,
combination of both, right? And
yeah,
they seem to feed each other, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
just that's how that goes for many of us. Yeah, wonderful. So you feel, your, let's say, dissatisfaction, yeah, your resistance, primarily mental
yeah,
and
yeah,
emotional.
yeah.
Okay, that's perfect.
I
All right,
think first mental and then emotional
cool.
afterwards. Yeah.
Yes, there's you're an energy awareness trainee, Anita. So the fact that you can actually qualify this and say, oh, first is that and then comes that is actually showing me that you have good energetic awareness already. Yeah, because for most of us, and this includes myself, just a few decades ago, would not be able to tell. I would not be able to tell what was there first or how it goes. I would just feel meh, and then everything would be meh. Life itself and everything is meh, kind of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I have not been aware of it before.
Yeah, so that's part of our awareness development. Okay, it's just like our, let's say, hearing, our musical awareness. I remember a time when I heard music with ears that could not differentiate, for example, instruments. Today I can do this because I have a little bit of musical education, and I can clearly sort of identify, yeah, the different instruments, the different parts of a song, for example, and stuff like that. So before I paid a little bit of time with educating myself, about music, it was very hard for me to differentiate. All I heard were songs that made me feel good and songs that didn't make me feel good. And as non-native English speaker, you might be able to relate to this very well, Annette. I didn't even understand the lyrics for most of the songs that I liked, at least sort of the pop songs. So I would just sort of mouth them, or, sort of go by hearing and say things without knowing the meaning of these songs. Yeah. This is for those of you who are native English speakers, you can't relate to this, but English is the language that kind of dominates sort of the pop music industry. And so for us non-natives, it's very interesting because we really can't make out what the song is actually about, at least not by the words, right? We just have to go by the tune, by the voice. This obviously changes drastically the moment you then actually understand the words, and you get a bigger picture. You get the bigger picture. You get the deeper understanding of the context. Yeah, and this might be surprising to you, but I have to say that ever since I can speak English, 90% of the songs that I used to like when I was a teenager, or before I could sufficiently speak English, they're not appropriate for me anymore. They're like, whoa, I had no idea that that's what these songs were about. And there's a different part of me now responding to them. Yeah, the part of me that looks at the meaning of the song. Yeah, and maybe the words that I used, and sort of what the deeper sort of notion is in a song. So I filter songs now not just by the music or by the feeling that I have and how well I used to like pieces that are really well composed. I still like that, but if the content, yeah, let's say that what is being sung about is say too dark for me, I will still not, I will still refuse it. So the point of giving you guys these real life examples here is to sharpen your awareness here a little bit, because we can look at one and the same thing, and depending on our value system, depending on our framework, and depending on our life experience, as well as sort of what we deem as good or not good, yeah, our mindsets, our beliefs, and so forth, that can create either resistance or agreement with what we're experiencing, right? Another example for is the physical condition. Now, Annette just shared with us about the negativity that comes forward for her mentally, and then how it sort of rubs off into the emotional and how it lowers her overall state. What about other ways of experiencing resistance? Who experiences physical resistance? And what could that look like? Or what could that feel like when someone has a physical resistance to something?
Hi, this is Becky.
Hey, Becky.
I am physical resistance. I'll just feel my whole body's tight and tense. Sometimes I'll get stomach aches. Yeah, it's just like kind of this overall just tightness and tension in my body.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I mean, Becky, do you mind sharing with us how old you are?
I'm 32. Sure.
Okay. Is there somebody here in the audience that is a little older and experiences something like Becky, or has experienced something like Becky?
Yes, I have experienced the same. Isn't
Annette?
it? Yeah, yeah, sorry.
Do you see that there, the physical resistance, so how would that come forward for you?
Yeah, actually, it's the same as Becky described. If there's something I don't want to attend, for instance, then I can feel it in my body. I get a tight stomach and, yeah, muscle tightness. It likes body contracts.
Uh-huh. Now, I've inquired about Becky's age, and do you mind sharing with us your age?
No, I'm 53.
Okay, so you're 20 years older than Becky. Yeah. Do you recall what it was like when you were 32, 33?
It was it was more dominant, the body feeling. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How do you perceive? Can you do what Annette did, like kind of sort of put it into maybe an order, or what is domineering what?
I think by age I've become aware of also the feelings and my mind. I wasn't that when I was younger.
Okay. So
Yeah.
when you were younger, you experienced it as the physical condition, the physical
Yes, that
part,
was
way more dominating.
Yes, absolutely. And as a
And
child, it was very, very dominant.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So with your growing awareness, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
It helped you to take things apart a little bit,
Yeah.
and you now understand that it is maybe your body reacting to your thoughts, yeah, or your thoughts reacting to your body, or your emotions reacting to your body. You recognize that there is a connection here.
Yes.
Okay, so the reason why I inquired about your age is obviously, you know, to show Becky in this case that there is a progression. Okay, so some of it has to do with simple life experience. Yeah, I remember experiencing certain types of aches or certain types of things as scary when I was younger, especially as a woman. When you have sort of menstrual pain and stuff like that, it's really, really hard to classify what that is and if the relation, yeah, if this is bad or not so bad compared to others and stuff like that. So we often tapping in the dark about that, like what about our conditions. Sorry guys, there's a airplane flying over me right here. Sometimes it's really difficult for us to make out if a condition is actually something severe or something serious, or if it is just let's say something that would maybe be called a nervous response. Yeah. So when we're a bit anxious, for example, we will probably feel this a little more in our body than when someone is less anxious. Yeah. So there's a progression there, and there's not just a positive progression, there's also a negative progression. And that is that if we spend our life in these states, yeah, it is quite possible that they turn into what the medical profession would call a chronic condition. In other words, you know, that we basically create sort of permanent conditions. Now, this cannot just happen with our physical, but our physical is the densest part of who we are, and therefore has a tendency to kind of accumulate, yeah, everything. Many of you are aware of this. Yeah, so anything from feelings, sensations, perceptions, and so forth, if they're not processed, they have a tendency to end up in our physical, yeah, over time, over decades. It's one of the reasons why self-healing, for example, makes a lot of sense to many of us, at least on an intuitive level, because we feel how sort of the burden of all these unresolved things, or baggage, as some people call it, you know, weighs heavier and heavier on our system the older we get. Yeah, so if you haven't recognized this connection, then bear that in mind. Not to scare you or anything, but there is you know, like a certain order in things, and that is that things don't just go away. Yeah, they have to go somewhere. Energies don't just go away. They don't just poof away. Yeah, they transform, and they have a tendency to transform into the denser levels if we don't do anything about it. Now, the good news about this is that we can do things about it, and many of us have already experienced this. Annette with 2N, for example. How is this this negativity that you mentioned? How has that developed in the course of your life? Like, you know, maybe today compared to like 10 years ago, 10 or 20 years ago, were you aware of your own negativity at all?
No, I don't think so. It was much more aware, and it was much more on autopilot. I was just angry, and yeah, I was
Yeah, you
much
just
more.
felt it as negative, everything, life.
Yeah, and I
It
did
became your
not.
life view.
Yes, and I did not think I could change anything of it, or I
Yes,
did not think that. Yeah,
that you could. Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So
But
over time,
I was thinking a little about the physical condition, because some days ago I liked dancing, and I saw myself on a video, and immediately I said, when I saw myself Oh no. And it was just crazy because I liked dancing, but I did not like see myself. So I could see how much I judged myself. Yeah, I have not. Yeah, I know I judged myself, but I was not quite aware that it was so much.
So internally, the internal experience of dancing is positive, but when you look at yourself on the outside,
yeah,
then
yeah,
you criticize. You criticize.
yes,
You,
yeah,
you point out the negative things.
yeah.
So this
Yeah.
is also a really good insight for you, because when you take on this this judgmental perspective,
Yeah.
it's basically you moving out of yourself and looking at yourself from the outside in.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah, so
then it was not so funny when I saw myself. All the fun was gone, and I could see. Yeah.
So the lesson in that is, and this is basically already a remedy. Yeah, a remedy, like how you can transcend that, is that instead of looking at yourself from the outside in, which triggers your judgment
Yeah.
and your negativity, try to focus more from the inside out.
Yeah.
How does this feel like for me? It feels awesome for me, and therefore it's good.
Yeah.
So whether or not we experience something as good or bad, so here's a list of random sort of what most of us perceive as good manifestations in life. Yeah, like when things are fun, when they are, you know, helping us to when they flow and things like that, right? I mean, those are just a few markers here how most of us define when life is good. Yeah, that's how we measure that. Yeah, it's easy, it's there's some kind of level of inner peace about what we do. And you just described when you defined your negativity, Annette, it's the opposite of that. Yeah, it's everything is critical, everything is kind of, you know, there's a lot of lack, or maybe you're doing this wrong and that wrong, and not good enough here, and not enough of that. Yeah, so fundamentally, the point that I wanted to make here is that we never actually go through this conscious making process of how we measure whether our life is good or not. We just go by certain like presets here. Yeah, these different levels of perception. Yeah, the physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, and energetic perception, which are built upon another. So the physical being the densest. Okay, so some of us are kind of caught here in the material view of things. Yeah, and we just see things based on how good you know, and you know, like not just in regards to the physical body, it could also be in regards to money, for example, in regards to certain comforts. Yeah, also what we own and so forth. So everything you guys understand, this has to do with security, with survival. Okay, so the physical, the densest one, is the one that is linked to our fundamental survival instincts. The emotional perspective, the emotional view of integrity has to do with our intuitive feelings. Yeah, not so much the spiritual or energetic perception, but intuitive, like, you know, whether this feels good to you or bad. It's intuitive for most people. It's not actually conscious. Yeah, so don't mix up intuition, gut feeling, yeah, and higher energetic perception, because a gut feeling is still bound to your physical material. Yeah, whether you experience yourself looking at yourself dancing, yeah, as a beautiful human creature that is joyful dancing, or as an old lady who I don't know, who doesn't do the steps right, or you know, I don't know what it is that you criticize about yourself, Ananda. But you know, whether you see yourself sort of just from the outside as something that operates like a machine, or something that operates like a you know, something that has to function. Yeah, so the material view is always linked to the function, and the intuitive feeling about something is how it makes us feel like. And that can depend on many things, such as past experiences, inner child attachment, and so forth. You guys know what I'm talking about. And then the mindsets are the actual judgment or frameworks that we use, yeah, to measure that. So when it comes to judgment in particular, it's very, very important to question the framework behind that. Annette, that's a tip for you. How is you know, as someone who enjoys, or someone who you know, is quote unquote a good dancer, how is that supposed to look like? Compared to what? Compared to whom? Yeah, like if I look at children, for example, children dancing, there's not much sophistication as far as the steps or the technique or anything is concerned. All I see, yeah, is kids that are totally enjoying. They're enjoying themselves moving. They don't really care what it looks like from the outside. And yet, the overall feeling is, and this is not the same as intuitive feeling. The intuitive feeling is to criticize, you know, based on, you know, how other people like things. Yeah, this is where people get intuition mixed up, because intuition isn't very sophisticated, guys. Intuition is something that links in with your instincts, yeah, and your body mind. Yeah, what it makes you feel like. Your intuition is the one that makes you scared when something new arises. Yeah, when you're confronted with an unknown, that's your intuition. Your intuition informs you that this is something new. How you then react to it is part of your training, of your conditioning, or of your experience. Yeah, and this is then where the mind comes in. If you have a mindset that says everything new is great, learning a new dance is awesome, then you'll enjoy the process. Then you will experience that as a joyful thing. If you are afraid of new things and look at yourself on the outside, and all you can see is the insufficiencies, or you know, where you're not good yet compared to the ideal, yeah, then you will have a lot of resistance to something new. And the same can apply on, and this is all internal, this all happens internally. Those are the different layers on which we perceive whether or not something feels integrous, yeah, feels whole, feels you know, like sort of part of us. The same occurs on the level of spiritual beliefs, for example. Yeah. So if something contradicts your beliefs, yeah, then you know, the mind, yeah, the mental, the emotional, and the physical will respond to it, just like how it responds to things that disagree with you on any other level. Yeah, it will make you, it will give you a gut punch. It will make you feel tense. It will create a lot of judgment in you. That's how you know that you are in resistance. When something energetically disagrees with you, in other words, when it's not integrous for you, and here, you know, I say energetic / etheric, because for most of us, it's not really possible to differentiate those two different levels. When something energetically disagrees with you, you might feel this on all other levels as undifferentiated resistance. Yeah, as something unconscious. Anybody ever procrastinated in their life? Dragging things out forever? Not wanting to do, who of you is a good procrastinator? Now, those of you who are raising your hands right now, are you always aware of why you're procrastinating? Do you know what you are resisting? I mean, procrastinating means that you are, let's say you promised something or you signed up for something or you wanted to do something, but you never started. You kind of drag it out. Yeah, you try to avoid it. Yes, it's a form of avoidance. Yes, Tina, I agree with you. It has to do with comfort zone. Yeah. So, but hey, I have found myself procrastinating things that I actually really like doing. It's not always the uncomfortable stuff. You guys experience that too? I don't always just procrastinate the things that I find hard or no, I have procrastination for other things as well. There is something there that is unconscious to me. Yeah, Linda says the fear of failure, that can be a big one. Yeah, so even if it is something that we're looking forward to or that we really want, we can sometimes procrastinate because we're afraid of not being able to do it in this ideal or perfect way. That would then contradict with our mindsets.
Jona, this is
Yes.
Janet.
Hi, Janet.
Hi. I've never really been a big procrastinator, really. I think I've gotten myself into more trouble by diving into a lot of different things really fast. So, but recently, it's interesting because this morning I was like, oh my gosh, I felt a release. I felt my body. I had this actual, going back to the conversation earlier, really conscious moment of going, oh, that released some tension in my body. I still must hold tension in my body, which I've probably known, but actually I had done my set of Qigong, and just that's why it's a 5,000-year-old art that's still around, because it really does a good job. But I just thought that was so synchronistic that I've thought that particular thing about my body tension, which I really don't do. This morning. And I also recently I've noticed, like what, myself looking at what things I need to do all at the same time. But if I'm, I never really, like I said, used procrastination, but I think part of it is, I don't know, it feels like a guarding resistance, because suddenly, there might be a slew of things that come to mind, it's the mind coming through ego, what I want to do, need to do, and who's calling the shots. It's all very external. And I think sometimes this, what we term as procrastination can be like this healthy delay to not keep going in the same path, suddenly to be able to have that space and the breath to go, okay, what's urgent right now? What do I need to do right now? And
that's you're talking about priorities then. So
well, in some ways, because sometimes the brain can make something more priority, where you just keep walking past your dreams, but you're following your mind to follow things. So if that isn't like in conjunction, like I've put off doing things because I didn't want to walk out in the heat, or I didn't have the energy to see a person, or that kind of stuff recently.
So then that's reasoning, right? So that's, like you said, it can be a healthy delay. It's a delay. It's not a procrastination. It's a delay because, and you're aware of it, because it's too hot right now. It'd be too, like, say, stressful on your body. Yeah, it would exhaust you too much. If you do the same thing in 2 hours or in 3 hours, it'd be more energy efficient, say, right? That's a reasoning. That's a conscious reasoning. And conscious reasonings, this is a problem. Conscious reasonings can be rational, but they can also be irrational. Because sometimes we delay something over and over and over again. And anyone who is a self-confessed procrastinator will have to admit that there always is a quote unquote good reason why we're not doing it yet. And right there can be a trap. That's what you just mentioned in the beginning. It's, you may feel overwhelmed, or there may be too much external factors, or whatever the reasons are. So for us to qualify whether we are procrastinating or whether we're making a conscious choice, yeah, that is based on, let's say, energy conservation, yeah, or even pleasure. It's okay to say, I don't feel like it yet. I'll do it later today, because right now it is beautiful sunny out and I want to enjoy the sun. Those are that's a conscious delay. And the reason why I need you guys to differentiate this a little bit more is because in that moment when you do a conscious delay, you are prioritizing something. And that is the part here that we need to look at, because when it comes to integrity, there is a part in us, all right, that kind of has a structure as to what is really important to us. And then there's the mind. Yeah, it says, nah, that's not yet that important yet. I can do this later. And I'm not saying that it's bad, but what we need to become more aware of is what it is that we're prioritizing in that moment. So examples for that are, when you have a day where you feel kind of low or down or negative or tense or whatever, that may be not a good day for, something that requires you to be more energetic or to be more lighthearted. Yeah, but it can also be a good reason to engage with what it is that you need to do regardless, because it could lift your energy, it could lift your mood, it could make you happier. Yeah, so take the dancing. Yeah, there may be a situation where you feel a little achy and and not up to par, and you're scheduled for dancing and you feel like, now let's delay this, let's move the appointment, or let's not do let's skip it this week. Whereas there's another part of you that can say, or maybe it is there but you're not hearing this, maybe if I go to dancing it will make me feel better. So this is the stance of a self-healer. Yeah, you become a bit more say critical of your own reasoning. Yeah, because whenever you reason something, you prioritize something, and once you can qualify that, you can make better choices. So if you ask yourself, all right, I want to delay this, why do I want to delay this? Oh, because it's so hot out. Okay, then ask yourself, what's the priority behind that? Make it absolutely aware to yourself what the you is deciding in that moment. This is when most of us slip into what Annette called autopilot earlier. We don't do that. We just take every rationale that comes along, including narratives or whatever, as a quote unquote good reason, yeah, to do something or not to do something. And that's something that it's not exactly the depth of sort of I am awareness, but it has to do with that, namely really being aware of what I am doing right now. Yeah, so that's the difference between the experiencer. So the experiencer is here in this realm, in the physical and the emotional. The observer is here in the mental, and also somewhat in the spiritual. The witnesser, though, is here in the spiritual and energetic. That is where we are witnessing and observing ourselves in our decision-making process. And that's then what we call consciousness. And the reason why this is relevant in regards or in context with integrity is that there is this sense in us that informs us about how this all matches up with another. Yeah. So I just want to make a quick sort of review here of how our perception and our life view, how they play together. And this is very, very important to understand. Annette said, you said something, Annette, about autopilot. And then you said something like, and even you said this, Janet, who calls the shots. Annette said something about it feels like things are just happening to you. They're just happening to you. That is a perception. Yeah, you can see this here by the color coding, perhaps. Yeah, that is a very dense perception. When I feel that things are just happening to me, okay, my life view will automatically become negative, pessimistic, right? Because we're constantly in a state of what comes next. We're constantly in a state of reacting to things that are coming at us. As opposed to, and this would be the sort of the first level of measurement that we can strive for, to be in a more neutral stance where we recognize that, wait a minute, I do have a choice. Yeah, and all I really need to do is to become a little more aware of the choices that I'm making at the time. Yeah, and this has then that process, we call that discernment of truth. Yeah, where we are questioning our own rationales. Yeah, where we are looking behind what am I telling myself right now? What is the judgment that is going on in my mind right now? Yeah, so Annette, this is referring to what to the process that you've mentioned. You're starting to differentiate more, and you recognize, and Janet, you said the same thing, that the majority of those thoughts are actually kind of externalized. They're kind of outside in. Outside in. Do you guys understand what I mean with that? They all sort of have that quality of you looking at yourself from the outside, like an observer. And it isn't really until we start developing what we then call spiritual consciousness, where we look at the meaning and the priorities of things. How important is that to me? Here's an example. Who of you here present likes helping other people? Likes being of service, likes being helpful? Yes, we don't want to discuss the self-sacrificial aspect of it, but yes, that's pretty much almost all of you. Okay. That is a spiritual notion, guys. It is. It's a spiritual notion. Wanting to be of service or wanting to help other people. It's not necessary for survival. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that would say it's contrary to survival. Yeah, why would you want to be of service to others? Take care of yourself first. Well, we all know that, one doesn't exclude the other, but that too is also a way to measure your own level of resistance, because when you're stuck in that ego mind, yeah, where you have all the rationales and the conditionings and so forth, the unconscious stuff, calling the shots. You will also see that whatever those decisions, those choices are, they're often also very exclusive. They often sound like or look like black and white, either or. Either for me or against me. Yeah, there's very little gray area there. And so the more we move into neutrality, yeah, the more we can begin to see a third option, right? There's something in between. And if our priority in life, for example, is to care for things outside of us, to care for others, to help others, and that's a decision that's coming from somewhere else, guys. That's a decision that's coming from a level of fulfillment and purpose. Who of you doesn't just like being of service to others, but actually feels something like fulfillment or even purpose with helping others?
Jona, I find it's kind of self-propelling. I find it
Yes.
like you say, well, I guess once you get into that it is a different reality, because I could sit here and observe myself at all those times, and it would be almost a whole different, not a whole different person, but it's just happens. It's like the snow falls, the rain rains, you help the person up off the sidewalk. I mean, it just happens. So yeah.
Then, so you're qualifying this now, right? But basically what you're saying, this is where I really wanted you guys to follow me here, that when you are making your choices based on, say, things like fulfillment or purpose, all right, they may not always, sort of be the best for you in that moment. Yeah, but let's say you see a person on the side of the road needing assistance and you're in a hurry to get somewhere, right? So for you, it'd be better to just hurry by, right? But you have something in you that overrules that. Yeah, it brings in a higher priority. It's like a hierarchy of priorities in us. Yeah, and when we begin to tune into, our spiritual consciousness, what happens, and you absolutely right, Janet, it comes as sort of a self-propelled kind of thing. It's not that we decide one day from now on, I'm always going to help other people. It doesn't go that way. It's something that develops in us. Yeah, where it becomes natural for us to prioritize that. Yeah, maybe not all the time, but because it's so fulfilling when we do that on some level, that even though we may be late somewhere else, as a consequence of helping someone, we'll still feel that this is a good thing to do, right? Do you guys know what I mean?
Yeah, it's so less mental, and so again, it's such a trust and faith thing that isn't even a thought form either in itself, but only to explain it now and to go, oh,
Yeah,
to
it's
try to
no
put it.
longer bound.
It's so what I think it is something that is what's supposed to propel us in our life. And when you were talking, what came up was it's it's some people pretend that's what they want in their life, or society pretends that it's be good and be right, but it's so not welcome at the same time. It can hit so many brick walls in a lot of different ways. So
and this is exactly what I want to get at with you guys. It's like, how do I know? How do I know? Right? Resistance would be something that we can use as measurement on the, say, no, this is not what I want to do side of things. And fulfillment, the subjective experience of fulfillment could be used as a measurement of, yes, this is fully, congruent with me. This is expressing who I am. Yeah, as sort of the lower and the higher margin of things. Yeah. Now, you said that there's lots of people out there that say they want to do this, or they have the intention, maybe, or maybe they're just doing it because it gets you more brownie points with, I don't know, God or the neighbors or social media. It doesn't matter though. There is an objective measurement of that subjective experience, and that is, in the level of sort of self responsibility that you feel, and ability to actually make a choice. So the more externalized we are, and the more resistance based and fear based our life view and perception of ourselves is, the more pessimistic, the more negative, the more powerless Yeah, we will experience ourselves. And the more conscious, the more congruent, yeah, the more sort of fulfillment based and purpose oriented we are, the more we will feel like we have a choice in life, the more optimistic it's going to make us about our future, about our present. And the more, and this is now, you know, basically leading us up to the definition of integrity, the more integrous we will feel inside. So resistance is a measurement for something not adding up inside of us. And that can be subjective, all right? If I want to be seen as this, you know, sort of altruistic, you know, person with white robes and you know, heal the world kind of person, yeah, and I drive by someone on this, you know, drive by someone on the street who needs help, and there's nobody else there to help, and I drive by, yeah, depending on how authentic that is and how congruent I feel, that it will either create a lot of pain in me, not helping, or like you said, it will be self-propelled. I don't even have to think about it. I don't even have to think about stopping and helping that person, because I see that as an expression of myself, of what and who I am. So in other words, the part here that I wanted to transport to you guys is not what is ideal and how should somebody be. Your mind is hyperactive in that way already. You have all the judgments and all those spiritual beliefs and all those, you know, whatever ideals, you know, what enlightenment means and so forth. There, you don't need to add, I don't need to add anything to that. What I want to teach you is how you can measure this within yourself. How do you measure fulfillment? How do you measure integrity with yourself? And in the Sacred Self-Healing course here, starting with the step 17, I'm referring to this stress gauge, okay? Based on the understanding that when we are in integrity with ourselves, we are experiencing something like peace. Not always blissful, but you know, it feels peaceful inside of us. It's a non-brainer, like you said. It's self-propelled. It's like you don't even have to think about it. There is no conflict about that. But when you are doing something against yourself, against your purpose, against what fulfills you, you are going to feel very conflicted. And I've used this visual here, this thermometer visual, yeah, and I'm using this in my daily, in my monthly calendar as the, you know, the sort of the forecast, the energetic forecast, yeah, what these collective energies might do to us on these specific days, yeah, as measure stick for you. A green day will be a day where, you know, it doesn't actually say that it's a good day. A green day is just a day where you feel, you know, fairly okay connected, and you know, where you can see truth, where you are okay with reality. It be more like a neutral state. That doesn't always mean that you like what you're seeing, but it is something, you know, the green states are the states where we are at least allowing ourselves to see things the way they are. The yellow states are typically the states where we are, you know, in this sort of constant seeking, constant coping, constant compensating, yeah, often accompanied with addiction. The orange states are the ones where we feel a lot of internal mental and emotional issues, the negativity that Annette is described earlier. And the highest level of conflict is when we feel sort of strong and persistent physical health issues, destructive feelings and destructive thoughts. That is when we are practically deviating from our integrity on mostly all levels, at least the levels that we are prioritizing. The more congruent all this is, the more all this is matching up, the more peace you will feel. And peace is not the same as bliss. But many of us have experienced quite a lot of trauma and you know, lots of sort of experiences that were very, very conflicted here on this scale. Yeah, who of you has experienced highly, highly conflicted states in your life? Myself included. All the way up to the top of destruction, suicidal thoughts. Yeah, the suicidal thoughts are the you know, the top of confliction, really, especially when you actually follow through with it. Yeah, so that's more than half of us. Who of us, let's lower our hands, who of us experiences frequent states of ego reactivity, like emotional, mental looping, and this back and forth and constant inner resistance, negativity, as Annette called it earlier. Yeah, that's another good, oh yeah, that's actually the majority from what I can see right now. Who of us find themselves in states or have experienced states of like constant seeking, sort of chasing something, constantly going, you know, like it's like you living your life and you're always stressed out, but you don't actually know why you're doing this. It's almost like an automatic, you know, constantly compensating, constantly dealing, like the fire putter outer type of thing. Mildly, yeah, I often find myself in that place. Yeah, in this place here. Who of you has had experiences, or maybe even currently experiences them, of you know, like you seeking truth, you wanting to know more. Sometimes on some days, you know, it's easier for you to deal with it, and others it's not. But you kind of have a bit of oh well, it is what it is, a kind of attitude. Who of you has experienced those neutral states where you're neutral to what is going on around you, or even what is happening to you? Okay, good. That's the majority of you. Who of you has experienced heart presence, like a really, really sort of, I mean, those are realms, right? So like maybe a state of inspiration, of you know, like really, really strong inner guidance, and you follow that, and you feel elated through that. You feel supported. You feel that you have backwind, so to speak. Yeah. So whatever this is supported. Nice. And who of you has actually experienced these you know, peaceful places where, you know, you really feel like, you know, you're in a place of abundance, gratitude for all, where, you know, you kind of know that you're exactly at the right place and time. You may not like everything that you know, still have to contend with, but you know, you're okay with it, and you surrender to Janet, you said fate earlier. I don't like that word so much, yeah, for reasons that we've talked about in the other parts, because fate is a word that a lot of people use in conjunction with superstition, yeah, or some sort of external power, yeah, but where you really feel like you know, you appreciate where you're at no matter what, because there's a deep sort of element of trust in you that you're exactly at the right place. That's exactly where you need to be.
Jona,
Yeah.
is that
Yes.
state, like everything that we're talking about this very moment, if we've experienced it, is it really kind of self-manifesting, really? I mean, I know I've had states, I've had times where it felt like it came to, I mean, things do
It
come
came
to us,
to.
so. But it also, I mean, if I'm dealing with, you know, this a physical issue that's consistently, you know, something daily I have to say good morning to, we can choose to kind of recall a time when, or
Yes.
recall
Yes.
that feeling. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Oh, okay.
But it is not something that we can induce. We can choose it, but we can't induce it. Okay, that's the practical part. How can we create conditions then that make that more likely, that allow us to remain or to maintain those kind of states without constantly having to fight against windmills? Yeah. So there is a fine line here between fantasy, Janet, yeah, where we use suggestion and projection
Mm-hmm.
on ourselves and kind of check out, yeah, and just go into la la land, yeah. And I see this a lot. This is a problem with New Age, because New Age has a way to suggest to people that they should just ignore all their 3D issues, yeah, and just step out of it. That is not meant with that, because it's not possible. Integrity is not possible to accomplish if you deny or cut out certain levels, certain layers of yourself. Integrity is accomplished when it's matching up. And pay attention to the wording. There is no definition of, you know, it has to be 100%. I mean, I sometimes give you guys frameworks such as 80-20, yeah, where I say, hey guys, ideal is 80-20, 20% contamination, 20% ego, yeah, and 80% you know, really tuned into your consciousness, because when you have that kind of ratio, it can become self-propelled. It is still quite difficult to maintain those kind of states if you have a lot of exposure. Yeah, let's say if you have to go to work every day, if you have to you know, interact a lot with you know, these 3D matters, you have more exposure, and it becomes you know, more easily distractive. So for example, watching news, okay, so someone who doesn't watch news is not exposed to the direct visuals and the direct projection of fear in this world, but you can still pick up on it energetically, so you'll still feel it, but you don't have all these like, say, gruesome pictures in your head, right? That's why you know, staying away from certain things that are unnecessary is good energy management, but ignoring that they happen is not, because you'll still be under the influence. Yeah, so you can't just pretend that you know, 3D problems don't exist, or that the world is full of waterfalls and unicorns, and that everybody lives in harmony. That is a fantasy, because that's not the reality. The reality is that when we go out in traffic, or when we go, you know, to the grocery store or whatever, that there is some level of adverse outer condition. So where I think where your question goes is into, like, how can we accomplish that? How can we get there? What's the practical assertion here? And that's then something that comes to us when we augment our life view by the energetic perspective, because when we add the energetic perspective to things, it's a lot easier for us to recognize if something is conducive or not. So this is where the word conducive comes from. Conducive means that it's well suited as a conduit. Okay, and opposing conducive, yeah, is contradictive. Yeah, something that contradicts, you know, you or puts you into resistance. Yeah, the easiest way, Dr. Hawkins, for example, calls this life promoting or life degrading. Yeah, seen through the lens of the material definition of energy. Yeah, so for example, if you, I can use the sort of US circumstances here as an example. There are certain stores. Yeah, where I live, I have the choice of all different kinds of stores: Target, Walmart, Whole Foods, Publix, etc. And you know, to a degree, we go shopping every day, every other day, because we eat mostly fresh fruits and vegetables. So I have choices. I can go to Walmart, which energetically I perceive as very life degrading. Yeah, this is a perception based judgment, because it's anything starting from the light, the way things are arranged, the people that work there and the people that go there. It feels to me, you know, like it's a burden. Yeah, my system responds to it. My system resists it. Okay, so when I go to Walmart, for example, I need to be very, very careful with how long I stay there, and you know, like what my overall state is to begin with. I have to be very grounded when I go there, and typically I need a little bit of time to recover. The energy in Walmart is not very conducive. Then there's a store here, as the other example, called Sprouts. It's similar to Whole Foods. It's a store, the health food store, has mostly organic produce, and the way it's built, the way the whole energy is in the place, and the people that work there, everything feels much more friendly, feels much more conducive to how I want to be. I feel more, like I would say, at home there. I feel it feels more, you know, like me. I don't have to protect myself so much there. I still have to, you know, be aware, and you know, I personally, I don't like shopping altogether. So for me, it's then, you know, the difference is maybe Walmart. I can handle 15 minutes of Walmart before I notice that it impacts my energy in a negative way. Yeah, and when something impacts my energy in a negative way, that means my confliction goes up. At Sprout, I can easily be half an hour without that happening. Yeah, so you start learning to gauge things in your life, yeah, and set priorities. Like there are situations where I need things that maybe Sprouts doesn't have, where I would have to go to Walmart to get them. And that's then when I apply prioritization, where I say, you know what, I don't need it that bad. I don't need it that bad that I want to go to Walmart now and expose my energy to that. I can wait. I wait till I need at least two more things that I need to get from Walmart, and then I go to Walmart once and get all three things. Yeah, I reduce the exposure to things that are not conducive, and increase the exposure to things that I experience as conducive, such as, let me ask you here, what do you experience, not just in regards to stores, no, in regards to any kind of places or situations in your life, as conducive for your energy? What makes it easier for you to feel, you know, creative, to feel congruent, to gain clarity, yeah, to feel abundant? What's the first thing that comes up for most of you? Places, situations in your life that you intuitively experience as conducive. Yes, visiting a plant school, yeah, nursery, or you know, like something where there's a lot of nature. Nature, plants, animals. Yes, exactly. What else? Not too much noise. Okay, so Annette with 2N, you figured out that places who are very noisy in general, they create more resistance in you. So places that are softer, would you say softer? I also have this with light, the lighting situation. I don't like these sort of bright things. I like it when light is, I mean, I do like sunlight, but besides that, I don't like neon lights and stuff like that. Yes, natural light, exactly. So noise plays a role, light plays a role. Also the people, guys. I mean, I don't know about you. I have, you know, a very important sort of thing in my life is meals, taking meals with others. Yeah, so Jeff and I spend a considerable amount of time with cooking and preparing foods and sharing that with others. I find sort of meal situations, shared meals with loved ones, extremely conducive. Yeah, something that makes me feel very, very peaceful. Yeah, where I can just lean back and just enjoy that. I don't actually have to interfere. I mean, you know, often, you know, I'm in the role of the facilitator, but not necessarily the one then that who fills it up. Having physical space, okay, yeah, especially if one lives in a sort of restricted space, and you know, sort of being in sort of this wider spaces out in the mountains, right, or you know, at the beach. Yes, Janet, physical activity is also very conducive for you. So that too is the same thing here. In my personal life, just to use myself as an example, I combine the love for my dogs, the love for nature, the love for physical activity by going out with the dogs a lot. Yeah. Same with kids. When I'm with kids, I feel very creative. I feel very playful. Just, you know, barely any judgment. Yeah, like, yeah, kids are awesome in that regards. Yeah, so I really like surrounding myself with kids. It's always inspiring to me. It's always opening up for me. Feels very conducive to be surrounded by kids. So you guys see, I mean, there's more obviously, you know, surrounding ourselves with beauty, avoiding clutter. You know, these are all practical things that we've talked about a million times. Yeah, what are the things that impact our energy in a negative way? But we're now looking at the bigger picture here, and the bigger picture of that is, yeah, how does all of that then go together and make us feel, you know, sort of that we are in integrity with ourselves. Yeah, and the segue here is, you know, understanding integrity as sort of the process of fulfilling our purpose. Yeah, so that is then basically what we are experience as integrity, and it's relative. Yeah, so what feels, yeah, fulfilling for you may not be the exact same as for me. However, the energetic view, yeah, that we just practiced here when we looked at the skate can help us though with recognizing that, well, you know, this is not as relative as we think. It affects all humans. Some of them are more aware, some of us are more aware of it, and some of us are less aware of it. Yeah, and this has to do with, you know, the choices and priorities that we have. Yeah, again, here there's there's different priorities when we make different choices or different when we favor, when we prioritize things in our life. Physical is obviously we're prioritizing our survival, our the instinctual, and also the part in us that is linked to drive, which is mostly biological. Emotional, we are favoring our passion, our desire, and to a degree also our intuition, because it's not always rational, but it is also not automatically irrational. It's often, something that has to do with either avoidance or seeking pleasure. Mentally, when we prioritize mental contextualization of something, then it has to do with intention. It has to do with our will. I want to be a vegan. I want to be looked at somebody who is woke or who has awareness towards animals, or do you guys know what I mean? It's a decision, that comes from an intention. The spiritual prioritization is defined by our beliefs, what we believe our purpose is. It's also defined by our karma, and we've investigated sort of the interplay of that, how when we surround ourselves with a certain people and energies and states, well, then we're also creating that karma. So the environment is reinforcing to that. And lastly, the energetic differentiation, and when we prioritize something from an energetic point of view, that's then when we regard it by the meaning that it has to us. We're giving it context. We can see all the others. So there's a hierarchy in that. We can see the others. If we are making a decision purely based on survival, we cannot regard the others. If we are making a decision based on our consciousness and based on the meaning that something has to us, we can still tune into all the others. So with these different layers of integrity, they also become more and more inclusive. So survival is very black and white, and it's very exclusive, and the meaning of something is very inclusive. Can you guys follow me here? It opens up, and the more it opens up, and the more conscious we become, the less conflicted we become. I can say, oh, I started a new job today, and oh my God, it's at a plant nursery, and the people are so nice people. They're so, conscientious and empathic, and they put so much love in everything that they do, that I decided to take that job, even though it pays less than the job that I have right now. So what would you say someone who makes a choice like that, what would you say that person is prioritizing at that moment? I choose this job because of how much love the people put into, the whatever job site is. How nice the people are, and how beautiful the environment is. What it feels like in there. Yes, it's based on fulfillment, and fulfillment is something that only we can feel, right? It's a spiritual, energetic thing. It's like we feel that there's sort of a higher purpose, and the meaning of that is very high. It means a lot to us. Yeah. What would you say that somebody who decides for, say, the other option, the other job that pays double of this job that I used as an example here in the plant nursery, but is at a factory where there's only machines, where a lot of people get hurt on the job site, where there's a boss who runs around yelling at everybody, and where it feels very degrading. But the job pays double than the other job in the plant nursery. What is that person prioritizing in that moment?
Survival.
Yeah. And actually not even. Because these jobs, they have a very high injury rate, you know, a lot of times. Yeah. You know, people get hurt or killed in those kind of jobs way more often than people who choose, you know, their professions or their jobs based on how much they love what they're doing. Yeah. Because in environments like this, like the factory, or, you know, mine or construction site or whatever, a lot of people are actually in resistance with what they're doing. They actually hate what they're doing. So, you know, the resistance then creates this environment of resistance, and everything becomes a struggle.
But Jona, if the person is conscious about, can't you be conscious about this choice?
Yeah, you can. Then you're
And
making
say,
consciously a bad choice. You know, you're
yes.
like, oh, this is not a good choice that I'm making. But I know what you mean. You mean compromise, right? You
Yeah,
say, no, this isn't so good of a choice here with job, for example,
yeah,
but it pays really well.
yeah.
Okay, and this is then where the I am awareness needs to come in, because you need to ask yourself, is it worth it? Is it worth it?
Yeah, yeah.
Is it worth it? Okay, so is it worth it for me? Yeah, let's say some of you are in a similar situation. You have been working in a job that is not conducive all your life.
Mm.
And one day you wake up and you realize how shitty that job is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Anybody ever experienced that? Me. Yeah. But you're only like, say, 2 years away from retirement.
Yeah.
You're only 2 years away from retirement, and all you got to do is now sort of the last mile, and then you know, you can, you know, you've paid enough into Social Security or whatever to get a good retirement money, and then you can finally do what you want to do. It is absolutely, if it is okay for you, you know, to last out for another 2 years, it is an absolutely okay compromise to do that, because you can say to yourself, all right, this isn't the optimal for me, the work environment that I have, but because the advantage, you know, the financial advantage, the survival advantage that I have through that long term, yeah, outweighs sort of the short term impact on me. And all I maybe need to do then is to add more conducive things to my life, yeah, to compensate for that. Yeah. So I can make compromises with myself, very, very conscious, you know, where I say, okay, I'm going to keep doing this job, but you know what I'm going to do from now on? I'm going to take my bike to work, you know, ride to work with my bike and back. I'm just saying this, it does not apply to all of you. Here in Florida, I could do this if I had to go somewhere, you know, and just sort of enjoy the bike ride to work and back, and that helps me to clear my energies, you know. And by the time I arrive at home, yeah, I feel back into my, I feel back in my center. I feel more integrous with myself, yeah. Or, you know, I come home and the first thing I do before I do anything else is I take my dogs out, yeah, and spend an hour in nature. So we may have to do more things to compensate for it, but if we're a conscious energy manager, we can, because we can feel that. We can feel what is good for us. So typically what happens to us when we discover that there is a a compromise that we are making, is that we then, this is really what conscious energy management is, that we then have to add more things to it that allow us to better live with this. Yeah. And you know, the important questions that arise here that we've covered in some of the energy talks, go to my YouTube channel, yeah, about the distinction between what am I? Yeah, am I a soul with a body or a body with a soul? Those help us to recalibrate our own integrity. Now, who am I? Who am I is not the same as what am I? Okay, what am I is, you know, for most of you, the answer is I am a soul with a body. Yeah. Who am I? Well, that's your identity in that. Yeah, that is whom you experience this life as, whom you choose to experience this life as. Now, I choose to experience this life as a conscious, awakened soul self, me personally, yeah, who you know, wants to serve other people in the process of doing the same thing. That is who I choose to be. Okay. Now, as many of you know, I've had at least 3 different careers before where I chose to be somebody else. Yeah. At first, I chose to be a chemist, a scientist, a lab worker, a, you know, sort of detailed, very mental, very intellectual type of person. Then I chose to be an IT consultant, also very mental, but not some, you know, more interactive with other people. And then I chose to be someone, you know, who consults people in, you know, their physical condition, especially nutrition and sort of the biochemical elements of their metabolism. Yeah, and then I ended up, yeah, really seeing myself as a healer and a teacher. Yeah, and now I'm also choosing to see myself as someone who, you know, is a director of a school and creates a whole new school environment. Yeah, so this can evolve. Who we are can evolve. What we are is always the same. And what I'm doing, well, that I can choose on an everyday level. Again, here you see there's different layers of choices that we can make. And this is where a lot of people get in trouble here, because you don't realize that regardless of what your intention is or what your higher, you know, thinking or higher goals are, what you're doing does play a role. Yeah, it's what you cultivate on a day-to-day level. So these 3 things, they have to match up. They have to match up. Yeah. So that's then really what leads us to, you know, a better understanding what soul integrity really is. Soul integrity is when all of it matches up with another and communicates and interacts with another. It needs to be conscious to us. And how do we get there? This is something here that you can do with yourself every day, if you will, or it doesn't have to be every day. Yeah, many of you get stuck in questioning yourself. I'm saying stop questioning what you are. That doesn't change what you are. You're always the same. You're a soul being, okay? Question your perception of yourself. Yeah. And this is where most people don't even know how to do that. So you question, you know, yourself on these different levels, and here's one extra element, and that is the social moral, because social moral values can change, for example, depending on what country you're in, or depending on what ethnic group you're in. Yeah. This is how you check that. In regards to the 3D physical, yeah, you can ask yourself, is this healthy? Is this sustainable? And you know, you need to qualify if how you're answering that is internal or external. This came up here a few times because many of you realized this in the course of talking, that a lot of your judgments and priorities have to do with external values. Ideally, you want to make sure that those are internal values, yeah, and not external. But nobody's free of external value, especially when it comes to the physical, yeah, because it is the outside. It's what you see. It's what you show to others. then emotional, you know, the priority needs to be how congruent we are. Is what I'm expressing matching up with what I'm feeling? Yeah, and if I don't know what I'm feeling, then I need to ask myself, is this desirable? Is this loving toward myself? Yeah, that's how you can decide if something is good for you or not. Emotionally. Mentally, is there clarity about what you're doing and thinking? Is this clear to you? If you don't know if it's clear to you, then ask yourself, is this acceptable? Is this reasonable for me? You think you do that? You don't. Who of you, give me a hand here real quick, finds themselves in places or has found themselves in places of mental looping, where you keep going in the same circle? Yeah, but if I do this, then this, and what if then, and then blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Anybody who finds himself in a place of mental looping is not doing this, is not clear about what you're actually thinking. And if this is even acceptable for you, that kind of thinking. Social moral values have to do with the context. Yeah, this has to do with appropriateness. So there's, you know, there's certain teachings, for example, yeah, that I discuss with you here in this workshop setting, that I cannot do on YouTube, or that I cannot do with children. It wouldn't be appropriate because it would be hard for them to follow, make them feel, you know, inadequate or something. That would not make them feel good. And that's why it's important that we, you know, check on that. Is this appropriate? What's the context here? Yeah, if somebody asks me, well, which job are you deciding to do? And you answer with, oh, you know, I decided not to work at all because I found out that it's not conducive for me to work. You know, I mean, what kind of context is that? I mean, you still have to pay bills. What are you going to, you know? So there's got to be a clarity about these things, and it's got to be congruent. Does this really feel good not to be able to pay your bills, not to have a home? Yeah. Is this healthy? Is this sustainable? Spiritual values. You know, the easiest way to measure spiritual you know, progress or evolution, yeah, is if there's growth in you, and whether something is moving you toward your higher expression and not, you know, making you loop or making you marinate in your old stuff. If you're stuck in your old stuff, you're not growing. That means whatever choices you're making aren't following your spiritual values. That's why I often say to you, like, question your ego, challenge your ego, make it a habit to challenge your ego, because your chances of growth are much higher if you challenge your ego, because comfort zone will always pull you back into the externalized and incongruence and lack of clarity. And energetically, you know, the way to check on your perception there is asking, is this conscious? Am I actually thinking this? Am I actually feeling this? What am I feeling? Yeah. And does this thought or this emotion, does this bring more balance, more healing, or more harmony in my life, or does it make me feel conflicted? Yeah, this helps you to evaluate that. So this is how you work yourself to that place of recognizing, yeah, what it actually is that makes you become congruent and integrous with your own purpose, your own fulfillment. That is a personal measure stick, but the personal measure stick requires you personally to be conscious about it at all times. I cannot determine if you are following your soul purpose. But what I can do, me personally now, as an energy healer, energy coach, is I can measure the level of confliction in you. And if you're very conflicted, that means you're not. Yeah. Doesn't mean that you're not working on it, but it means that you're still in a lot of resistance. And when you're in a lot of resistance, that means that you're not in integrity. Don't mix this up with moral integrity. Soul integrity is a different layer of that. Yeah? It's where all of these match up. They don't have to be perfect. They just have to be calibrated with another. They just have to match up. And now you may better understand what this means. You know your soul's purpose when there's nothing left that you need to resist. When you are in a place of non-resistance, yeah, and you can feel your heart, then it's self-propelled. And yes, we all want to be in that place at all times, but the choices that we make every day, guys, they're not leading us to that. So that's where most of you feel this conflict and this incongruence with yourself. You're making choices that are not conscious, and unconscious choices lead to autopilot. They lead to ego manifestation. So this is the reason why so few of us actually feel, or have a good reference feeling for soul integrity. Having a reference feeling for soul integrity doesn't mean that you're always 100% acting according to it. Yeah, because sometimes you have to make compromises. We all have to contend with, life and the curveballs that life throws and situations. But see, the less you resist, the more flexible you become, the more adaptable you become, and the easier life becomes, the less struggle you have. And the more you then, sort of feel, what it means, that, you know that you're in the right place, even if you have to deal with outer conditions. Yeah. So soul integrity is knowing that your spirit is where it must be. This also includes that you don't look back and beat yourself up for what you didn't know yesterday. Yeah. So many get stuck in, beating yourself up over what you couldn't see before. This is not very integrous, because you couldn't have seen it before. So your spirit is exactly where it needs to be. You are exactly where, or your consciousness is exactly where it needs to be, because the moment you have it is when you're ready for it. And if you didn't have it yesterday, well, then you weren't ready for it. But the reason why you weren't ready for it maybe was in your choices, was in, how you prioritize things in your life. Here are just a few things I need to run now, guys, that I wanted to throw out at you. Looking for love is like trying to find soul, trying to find your soul in others. That's very, very important. A lot of people confuse this. Because really how soul purpose shines through. You can find this in any spiritual teaching in ancient texts, is in how much love you can express. And so there's a misconception that we need more love, that we're scarce, that we're, that we have a lack of love. And therefore the ego thinks, well, then I have to go out and get it from somewhere. I need a person to love. Well, with a higher conscious level, you can see that that's, looking in the wrong place. This needs to be found within, and that's why self-love is very, very conducive for our spiritual journey, because it makes us feel more integrous with ourselves. And then lastly, this is then something that comes up for us when we're really serious about this, is when you align yourself to your soul self, you no longer walk alone. You walk with all those who support your intention and who have gone there before. Yeah, that is then, when you feel the connection to others, kind of like how we experienced this here. And you know that you're not alone. And you no longer need to be afraid of being alone. And then the very last thing, which we will do a workshop for next month, is, sort of a simplification of it all, and how one who is actively working on consciousness can actually sort of create sort of inner gauges for things like a scanning tool. Yeah. scanning your own energetic self-awareness at a certain moment. That can be done internally. You can work with these gauges in yourself and ask yourself, how high is my truth level today? How high is my love level? Yeah, how much love am I expressing? Yeah, or am I conflicted? And how congruent are my expressions? Am I speaking truth? Am I acting in my truth? You know, these kind of things can be measured on the inside. Yeah, they correlate to this one here, but seen from these three fundamental pillars of consciousness. Yeah, truth, love, and light. Light is also associated with freedom. Mm-hmm. Yeah, guys, I think we are at the end of our capacity here. This is deep stuff, and it's sometimes confusing when you have to put this into words and do all this sort of groundwork first to define terminology. Yeah, because it takes a while till we get to the core of it. Yeah, but you have to understand that that is how you train your mind, your emotions, and even to a degree your body or your overall perception to gain more clarity about what you are, who you are, and what you're doing. Yeah, and where you're at. And at some point, you know, your state of energy is no longer a mystery to you. You know exactly why you are there. Okay, and then it's just a matter of choice whether you want to do something to balance it out, yeah, to bring this back into harmony and engage in things that are more conducive for you, or whether you keep engaging in the things that conflict you. Yeah, so all you really need to figure out is you know, what's bringing you, you know, sort of the feeling of balance, the feeling of sustainability and peace, and what's bringing resistance. Pay attention to your resistances, guys. Yeah, that is what a conscious energy worker and self-healer does, because your resistance is always informing you about the fact that there is something there that you're doing that is against your own soul integrity, against your own soul purpose. All right. Okay, guys. Thank you so much. As always, these webinars are fantastic, and I love to be able to dive deeper with you. I see you very soon. Yeah, and keep following on YouTube, you know, with the energy updates and energy talks. Yeah, big thanks to all of you who are facilitators for the Sacred Self-Healing online meditations. I can't even express my gratitude enough for you, you know, offering this to other people. I sometimes feel a little sad that, you know, there's so few people only, yeah, and that we don't share more. So part of your soul integrity can also be to actually be more congruent about this, yeah, who you truly are, yeah, and share this, invite the people that you care for, because, you know, you're not telling them what to think or what to believe or what to do. You're just helping them to become more aware. Yeah, and that's a phenomenal gift. Yeah, that's why people with higher conscious level have higher levels of impact on others. Yeah. All right, everyone. See you very soon. Thank you, and bye-bye.